acknowledging that we are fortunate enough to be able to gather on the unceded territory of the Coast Salish people. What an honor it is to be here with you all this morning in beautiful Vancouver, British Columbia. I left behind 3 feet of snow in the West Kootenay, so the rain is actually a nice change of scenery. Before we get into the swing of things, I'm going to share with you all a little presentation that I put together for the students in my old high school. It's an idea of what it's like to be a tradesperson in today's world in order to try and shed some light on the industry and gain prospective apprentices. My name is Gabrielle Herle, and I have my red seal in a trade. I made the students guess which one, and I stumped them all because I hadn't been wearing my tool pouch at the time. I tell them a little bit about myself, how I have a certificate in BCIT from OH&S, how I graduated from their very high school in 2008, how I'm now working through my union hall as both carpenter scaffolder and safety coordinator. And I let the students know that this presentation just might help them discover their new dream career. In this famous photo, we see your average crew having a bit of a lunch break. The working conditions at the time this photo was taken were as follows. Bread and coffee were heated up using a rivet heating tool 81 stories high next to a ledge with no means of guardrail installed, and once you ate your bread, it was back to work, no questions asked. I compare that to nowadays where we have break rooms, break schedules, a place to eat, wash your hands before you eat. I mentioned local legislation and the new laws in place to protect all workers and make employers provide all things necessary for a safe and healthy working environment. I then tell the students a little bit more about myself and my background in the trades, how I needed a direction after high school, and that I picked carpentry based off family history. My brother and my dad are both carpenters. I tell them it only took me 6 months initially after high school through a pre-apprenticeship program at the local college, and I only had to go to school for 6 weeks at a time, 4 years after, until it was time to write my red seal at 21 years old. The union took me on as an apprentice, and I was able to work on various jobs in BC and Alberta. Of course, there were ups and downs like any journey you take in your life. Sometimes I was the only girl on my crew, but I found there were a lot of supportive guys that I was working with who helped me through my apprenticeship because they saw the strength, determination, and hard work ethic that I possessed. When I first started to play hockey, there weren't very many girls there either. But now there are a lot more in the sport than when I was growing up. I tell the students that learning about how to handle materials that seem to be much stronger than yourself was such a fun challenge. Who knew I was able to carry around a 16-foot 4x6 with very little sweating involved? I told the classes that I've made so many friends along the way, with interesting stories to tell based off of where they're from. I've worked with and met people on project from all parts of the world. Fast forward 4 more years, Gabrielle, the safety coordinator, was formed. Starting with a shared role of overseeing the health and safety of all employees, I began the second part of my career by taking just a 3-week course with the ACSA, the NCSO. While working full-time, I took online training courses to develop credits over the next 2.5 years to get my OH&S certificate. I now have the option of taking a few more courses in order to get my diploma online. I tell the students that carpentry and the world of occupational health and safety were 2 directions I never thought I would love so much when I was in high school. It just goes to show that you never know if something is the right fit until you give it a try. I now know the opportunities for growth in the industry are endless, and it's one of the most exciting things that I get to share with students today. I talk about what it's like on site and how from a trade you can expand yourself in a variety of ways. Opportunities for professional advancement through organizations and government initiatives such as union technical development, joint occupational health and safety committees, even social media platforms like LinkedIn are providing a multitude of avenues for those involved in industrial work. I tell the classes that when I was an apprentice, the first year wage was around $17 an hour. When I received my first paycheck, I could barely breathe. For just 2 weeks of work, I was paid close to $1,700. It was an out-of-town job, which meant the union had an agreement in place for live-out allowance and other daily check perks such as travel pay, but still quite a large number for an 18-year-old to swallow. Luckily, my parents instilled the value of saving your dollars in me, and at 27 years old, just 2 years ago, I bought my very own home where I park my brand new 2019 Toyota Tacoma proudly into any parking stall, and not because I have a backup camera, but from backing up the work trucks all of those years. Being in the trades has not only stabilized my life financially, but it's taught me to be strong physically, mentally, and emotionally. And for the record, that is not my home, nor is that the color of my truck, but it is very good bait for the high school students. I also let them know that they can work on many projects that already exist both locally and nationwide. For me, I advertise our local pulp mill, Celgar Pulp Mill. I talk about working at Tech Coal. I talk about working at Tech Metals. I talk about working at various dams and bridge jobs. I also share with the students projects that are current and upcoming that they themselves could be a part of by the time they complete their apprenticeship. And then I finished the presentation with a list of resources that I used to make it. Of course, you're not students in high school, and I'm not here today to tell you to get into the trades. Today I'm here because we are all students of life, and as a result, we're all constantly learning. I hope you can take away something from this morning's presentation that resonates with you. Let's start with a story. Over the holiday season, I watched an old game show network with my family. One of the shows was called Supermarket Sweep. Has anyone in the room seen this television show? Hands up. All right, I knew there'd be a couple. So for the rest of the room that has never seen this show, the object is to compete against other teams in supermarket product literacy knowledge. The show first aired in 1965, and like many game shows of its kind, was hosted by a man and had a majority of female contestants. I laughed and shook my head at the various antics provided by this form of entertainment, thinking to myself, can you believe there was such a production? And then, as though traveling through a time warp, I went outside to help my dad work on building a patio for their new home. My parents are on a corner lot, and there are quite a few retirees in their community. One by one, they slowly drive, walk, or pedal by, and with each passing baby boomer comes the announcement of amaze and wonder as they watch as a young woman pounds 3-inch nails into dimensional lumber. When it's solely my dad, or my dad and older brother working on the deck, a lot of people pass by and they say, that deck is sure coming along nicely. However, whenever I'm helping out in the mix, they always seem to add, way to go, you're working hard, as though I, a woman and her hammer, am an anomaly. They then return home to continue watching Supermarket Sweep. My name is Gabrielle Herle, and I am a people person. I love people for one very distinct reason, because we are all so unique. I'm here to talk about people, culture, and how our differences can make or break us. I'm here to talk about what it's like to be a working tradeswoman in today's society. I'll be addressing how diversity, equity, and inclusion play a crucial role in the industrial construction culture shift and their overall contribution to a health and safe workplace for all. As I mentioned earlier in my Life of a Tradesperson presentation, I began my journey in 2008 after high school when I entered into an apprenticeship program for carpentry. Fortunate enough for me, the union hall took me in as an apprentice, and I was lucky to be able to work with both my dad and brother at my first job, the Revelstoke Dam expansion project. My family has always taught me to work hard. Acutely aware of my petite physical stature, my dad guided me through the ins and outs at the local gym so that I could literally carry my weight on the job site. Since then, I've completed my Red Seal in the trade, have designation as a National Construction Safety Officer, and hold a certificate through BCIT's Occupational Health and Safety Program. Today, on a regular basis, I get to stand in front of a room full of people ages 18 to 60 and help them as they start each day working in heavy industrial environments. The story I told about the supermarket sweep show paints the picture of how important culture is to our society. Not important in the aspect of priority, but rather how great of an effect it has on our day-to-day thoughts and decisions in the way we see ourselves and one another. Culture, as I have learned in my safety education, is a word we use to describe the way it is around here. We see culture in many places, in our homes, in our schools, our workplaces, and overall in our countries. The way we form culture doesn't happen overnight. The construction culture has had its fair share of renovations over the years, solely which we have seen a plenty of in the safety industry. From the top of the hierarchy of controls engineering advancements to the bottom, personal protective equipment evolutions, the safety sector of the industrial environment has people ages old and young reminding one another to replace that guard or to don those earplugs. Back when Supermarket Sweep was first airing, people were just getting used to wearing a seatbelt for the first time. The human culture of construction, though, is a much slower, less recognizable measurement. There is still an elephant in the room, and I'm here to talk about it. There is still work to do when it comes to being on the tools and in the field. A study was released from Stats Canada in March of 2019 that compares the labor market outcomes of women and men who select male-dominated apprenticeship programs. Using a 2015 apprenticeship survey and a 2014 T1 family file, the study documents the first 4 years following the end of an apprentice's program. 20.7% of female apprentices were found to be in these programs. The study confirmed that positive contributing factors to this 20.7% included being Canadian-born, being older, having a father with a trade certificate, having participated in a youth apprenticeship program, or a trades, vocational, or technical program in high school. Despite their opportunistic outlook, this Stats Canada study found that women registered in these male-dominated programs, which are defined as having 75% male enrollees, had poor labor market outcomes. The median hourly wages of women were 14% less than that of their male counterparts. What percentage of the 20.7% of women do you all think that at the end of their 4-year apprenticeship journey still held a job related to their trade of study? Any guesses? Close. It was found that just under half of these women, so 56% of those 20.7%, still held the same trade as when they started, compared to the 71% held by their male counterparts. We are here, we are working. Yet, not all of the women that enter the trades are found in their same chosen trade of study years after they begin. In my opinion, this article is only half true, as I can guarantee you that a lot more than 4% of women are choosing to go into the trades. We currently sit below 4% nationally for those currently in skilled trades. So why don't women stay? How long have we been asking ourselves this question? If there's so much research already done, then how have the necessary requirements not yet been met? As the article in the slide mentioned, although there are now a variety of initiatives aimed at improving the numbers, there are still cultural and structural issues that haven't made the trades particularly appealing or welcoming for women. This past July, I had the opportunity to speak to Canadian leaders that have the capabilities to really make a difference. I was a panelist at the Energy and Mines Ministers Conference. The panel was aimed at the importance for an organizational culture to address gender equality and diversity. My time at the podium was to discuss current challenges and perceptions of change in the field. Here's what I had to say to the ministers that day. When people first meet me, they are surprised to find out my profession. And hearing comments like, "Wow, really? Good for you," fill me with pride. However, sometimes, and it's normally at work, I get mistaken for the cleaner or the first aid attendant. I know a lot of women that are in leadership roles, and it's not uncommon for them to be asked, "Where is your foreman?" To which they kindly respond, "You're looking at her." The business agent of my union hall recently told me the story of an interested apprentice. He said, "My daughter is graduating this year. Her best friend has the most trades-oriented brain I have ever met. At just 10 years old, this girl watched as I attempted to install an old door on my work shed. She informed me the hinges were the wrong way. Her parents asked if I could help getting her started in the union hall. I hesitated. She's like a daughter to me," he said, "and I know what it's like out there." Government agencies and educational institutions in Canada have been asking why women are not entering and staying in the trades and technology sectors for over 40 years. Existing research on the concern of benefit and retention point to factors including health and safety concerns, fewer mentorship opportunities, and inflexible workplace policies and practices. Speaking from my 11 years so far in the industry, an example that rings true to mind when it comes to health and safety concerns is the continual ability to access a washroom on site. I remember as an apprentice while working at a substation, the crew I was on didn't feel the need to drive up to their designated lunchroom for coffee or lunch breaks. While it is true that it's easier for men to relieve themselves outside than it is for women, for a variety of reasons, whether it be washing your hands before you eat or that time of the month, it was necessary for me to request that we eat at our designated lunchroom. Now, as an apprentice, it was tough not to feel ashamed for going against the crew norm. To address mentorship concerns, I want to compare two 18-year-olds, one boy, one girl, both recent graduates, both undecided with which direction to take their lives, but eager to get out and earn a living in the world. Now honestly ask yourselves, what is the likelihood that both individuals would have someone suggest that they apply as a laborer on a construction site just to see if it's something they'd be interested in? Typically, a young man can be found working on the construction site, navigating his way through the plethora of pathways offered, while a young woman can be found working in retail or food service industries as cashier or server. Finally, circling back to workplace policies and practices, I regret to admit that just that month, and I struggled to find a politically correct way of saying this, I was on a site where dirty magazines were housed. If an organization states that they have a code and policy geared toward ethics of the highest standard, audits are critical to ensure this is happening. Though I am no stranger to a culture that decorates cans with images of scantily clad women, I feel most comfortable when these retired colloquial idealisms are kept out of our professional work environments. Though I cannot say that I have firsthand experienced many of the research retention barriers, such as bullying, discriminatory recruitment, hiring and advancement practices, sexual harassment, discrimination, or network opportunities, the statistics support their existence. It's unknown to me how my journey has brought me where I am today. And it is possible to give credit to my race, as well as my interpersonal and adaptation skills. However, not everyone possesses such chameleon-like abilities, and furthermore, no one should feel the need to change their identity just to go to work. Women make up 52% of the population, yet the percentage of us in the skilled trades has only moved from 3 to 5 since 2001. The construction sector needs to replace more than 250,000 retiring professionals in the next 10 years. Data from Stats Canada 2011 showed that women in my carpentry trade were at a total of 710, and though that may seem like a relatively large number, it was only 2.5% of all carpenters at that time. Diversity is being invited to the party. Inclusion is being asked to dance. While it is true that men are from Mars and women are from Venus, both are capable of building something great when given the right tools and opportunities. I believe we need to stop focusing on what gender is on the worksite and more on what skills are on the worksite. The idea of a construction worker having more brawn than brain is expired. Let's work on ensuring the professionals that we work alongside can say with confidence that their workplace has evolved with the demands and training required to be there. When I presented my Life of a Tradesperson presentation to a grade 8 career and personal planning class, before I even started, I asked them all, by a show of hands, how many of you are interested in pursuing a career in trades? 5 young women put their hands up. It's up to us right now to implement the changes necessary in order to give these aspiring students an environment that will allow them to reach their potential and succeed in their passion. So I have a question for everyone this morning. Will you commit to being a change maker? And there are change makers out there. They're working to make a difference and help shift the construction culture needle in order to retain skilled people in the trades. This month, I'm speaking with local women in my community to put on a bit of a meet and greet and hands-on skill tactics workshop for girls in grades 10 to 12. That way, they have an opportunity to be exposed to a variety of mentors that they may not have otherwise viewed. Via meetings, conferences, articles, news reports, websites, union and employer support, and community outreach, every little bit of exposure helps when attempting to fix a system and not its occupants. The more shared this topic is, the less of an anomaly it becomes. My personal goal is to no longer have people comment, wow, good for them, on any of the Facebook shares that I have, because it then means that it's an accepted post of what is considered normal in our societal culture. Where there is diversity, there is richness and multi-tiered opportunities for new ideas to grow. Where there is diversity, there is more chance for professionalism because there's less room for tunneling of similar ideals to form a traditional culture that breeds an exclusive and retired environment. Where there is diversity and it's paired with inclusion, there is success. Much like children on a playground, men and women behave differently when working with or without one gender or the other. The change makers that I've been a part of include the BC Centre for Women in Trades Training, which aims to increase retention and advancement of women in the trades through targeted supports and programs, including outreach and mentoring. I helped my current employer sign on to the BC Builders Code, a construction workforce equity project with a standard code of conduct aimed directly at the construction culture. Recently, I attended the first inaugural awards held in Victoria. One of the recipients had quite a statement that resonated with me during his brief thank you speech. He said, "It seems strange to be receiving an award for what feels like doing the right thing." He also said that although many millennials and Gen Z employees don't necessarily opt to work a ton of overtime hours, they get this stuff. I've also had firsthand experience with the wide network of social media that brings thousands of working tradeswomen together, like the BC Tradeswomen Society. This group provides support and networking for BC women in the trades. That's not all there is, though. In BC alone, a number of initiatives, groups, and networks exist. The Construction Foundation of BC is a supporter and advocate for women in trades, creating spotlight on positive initiatives like the Mott Electric GP Women in Trades Training Fund. STEP BC works as an aid for employment seekers by aligning each individual's interest, aptitude, and abilities with available job openings in construction occupations. The ITA has a Women in Trades training program that provides training, financial assistance, and support for eligible women living in BC that are thinking about pursuing a skilled trades career but require employment and the right education to start. BCIT has a program called Trades Discovery for Women, allowing hands-on experience in about 20 different trades and even helps them enter into an apprenticeship. Other various supporting educational institutions that have a Women in Trades program include Camosun College, Thompson River University, Squamish Nations Trades Training, Okanagan College, North Island College, Excel Career College, the list goes on. Outside of BC, there are several resources available for women thinking about or already in the skilled trades sector. Build Together is a national Canadian building trades union program that provides and supports and mentors women in the skilled trades. Canadian Construction Women and the Canadian Association of Women in Construction help advise, guide, and assist women with industry challenges. Build a Dream is a nonprofit dedicated to empowering and educating young women about careers not only in skilled trades, but in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, emergency response, entrepreneurship, politics, and leadership. Empower is a Women in Trades program in Calgary, Alberta. Women Building Futures also comes from Alberta with a focus on the heavy industrial workforce. Women's Enterprise Skill Training of Windsor Inc. offers their services in Windsor, Essex County, Ontario. Also coming out of Ontario is the Women in Skilled Trades and Information Technology Training. Quebec promotes women's field roles via Les Ailes de la Construction, offering assistance for all levels, entrepreneurs, project managers, and tradeswomen alike. Newfoundland and Labrador, New Brunswick, Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan have partnered together with their employers, unions, government, and training institutions as part of the Office to Advance Women Apprentices, or the OAWA. Nova Scotia also has Women Unlimited, whose website features resources for potential interested tradeswomen, employers, as well as community involvement. Prince Edward Island has its own women's network and a project called Trade Horizons. Newfoundland and Labrador have created the WRDC, Women in Resource Development Corporation. Manitoba Women in Construction is also working to build the long-term success of women in the industry. The Yukon's Women in Trades and Technology nonprofit benefits both young girls seeking out new opportunities as well as women already immersed in the world of skilled trades. Skills Nunavut had a news report just this past July that said, Skills Nunavut is committed to removing the barriers and stigmas for women and girls wanting to pursue a career in the skilled trades industries, particularly careers that have been previously deemed men's jobs. Over in Toronto, Ontario, a previous fellow panelist of mine has created and is now celebrating the 1-year anniversary of her organization, Inclusion and Diversity 101. Enabling businesses to unlock performance potential by tapping into the talents of an increasingly diverse workforce in ways that set new trajectories for innovation and value creation. Essentially, all of these organizations and initiatives and groups and networks are all trying to accomplish a common goal, and that's changing the culture in construction. Of course, we know that culture doesn't change overnight. One person alone cannot change a culture. One person may be a large driving force for change, as all leaders are, but it's the people around us that ultimately change the culture of a society. We, as a society, alter the dictionary each year because culturally we have chosen to use different words to reflect our experiences as a group. The term kids these days has an endless meaning because time and time again, what the kids define as cool continues to change. As long as there are discussions around the women in trades movement, the wave will continue on and the needle will gradually shift. Sure, people in charge of quotas and other government initiatives can help by literally forcing employers and industry players to hire and retain skilled tradeswomen. But without the unsung support of everyone in the background discussing how important it really is, there will not be enough pressure for these people to implement the necessary requirements. Through my union hall, apprentices are required to be dispatched for every contractor requiring a workforce. Because of this, and through equity hire concepts, I was able to get onto my first job as a carpenter apprentice. Once I was there and people realized my potential as a hardworking tradesperson, it was a no-brainer for the superintendent to keep me on board. Unfortunately, not all women are lucky enough to be chosen to stay and work at a company, let alone get that first foot in the door. Oh, back one. All right. I have a good friend that works in telecommunications as a power line technician. On the way home from our women's ice hockey tournament, she told me about a conversation she had with her coworker just this month. She said that on more than one occasion, an older male client would ask her if anyone else was coming out to help that day. When she replied it would be just her assisting them with their needs, their reaction was to ask her how long she'd been doing her job for in order to convince themselves that she would be well qualified to help them. Upon sharing this with her male coworker, she learned that he, in all of his career, had never had anyone ask him how long he'd been doing his job for. She's been in her industry as a professional for 16 years. When I researched Stats Canada studies to help shape my presentation, I found this article online. This is Jamie McMillan. Her initial letter of acceptance into a trades program was addressed to Mr. McMillan. In this article, Jamie speaks highly of her coworkers and passionately about the career she has built for herself as an iron worker. My hope for the future is to consider how to survive, an extinct phrase for a tradeswoman's vocabulary, and have it replaced with the phrase how to thrive. Ideally, an end goal would be to foster collaboration and develop leadership among policymakers, industry stakeholders, and other trade service providers. Leave that up there while I take a drink of water. Hopefully it's not awkward for anyone. We need to keep talking about the elephant in the room. If we talk about it enough, it'll get uncomfortable, and it will leave. To further prevent the array of talented and skilled women from leaving the industry, however, what are some things that you can be responsible for? One way is to sign on to the Build Together Industry Champion Steps, found on the slide online, where there you can commit to modeling appropriate behaviors and holding people accountable for their actions. You can commit to speaking about the importance of respectful workplaces and inclusivity. You can support underrepresented groups in the trades. You can check with your organization about their policies and procedures for reporting harassment and find out if they're communicated at regular intervals. You can find out if your organization has or would consider developing diversity training for workers, supervisors, stewards, and job leads. And other ways include visiting the websites of the various local establishments mentioned in this morning's presentation, all of which can be found in a convenient handout located on the table that you're sitting at. We need to keep talking about the elephant in the room, because one day, when I have a daughter, and she helps me build a deck outside of my home, the only reason people will stop will be to ask if we can build one for them next. People will not have to crank their necks to see the girl journey person on their work site. because she's just there to do the job she loves. She will not be considered an anomaly. She will be seen exactly for what she is, a tradeswoman. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much for your time this morning.